So, Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Zainab Kurumali, currently a proud level 1 bachelor student at Rehan School Online Academy. So, this is my AI session number 56, and today's topic of conversation is actually really interesting. So, I guess I should probably let you know what's the topic. So, so, the topic is respecting different cultures. So, let me give you a preview when I start talking about it. Okay.
Hiya.
Hi, Maya. How are you? And how's your day?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. It's been a bright day so far. How's everything going with you?
My day, that's a nice question. My day has also been fine. So, today's topic of conversation is respecting different cultures. So, let me give you a preview about it. So, cultures include the traditions, languages, beliefs, foods, clothing, and customs of different groups of people. So, every culture is unique and teaches us something valuable about the world. So, um, respecting different cultures means appreciating and learning about people who may live differently from us, and it helps us become more open-minded, kinder, and understanding. So when we respect our culture, we build stronger friendships and create more peaceful society. So now I would like to ask you questions. First, I would like to know what is culture.
Mm, that's a beautiful way to frame it, thinking of every culture as a lesson in how to be human. To me, culture is like the invisible software that runs in the background of our lives. It's not just the big things like the language you speak or the holidays you celebrate, but the tiny unspoken things too, like how close you stand to someone when you talk, the way you define family, or even what you consider a polite way to disagree. It's essentially the shared lens through which a group of people sees the world and makes sense of it. When you think about it, the coolest part is that culture isn't static. It's always evolving. Our own traditions with things we pick up from others.
Let me reload the page. Okay, yeah. Hi,
Hey there.
Maya. Hello, can you hear me?
Loud
Cool.
and
Okay,
clear.
I was asking you what is culture, so I would like you to tell me about it.
I've got you. Let's dive deeper into it. If the invisible software idea was a bit too abstract, think of culture as the collective heartbeat of a group. It's the shared, we do things this way that makes a community feel like a community. It's in the recipes passed down through generations, this specific way people greet each other, and even the shared stories that explain why a certain holiday is celebrated. It's essentially the glue that holds a society together and gives people a sense of belonging. Does that make it feel a bit more tangible? I'll take a guess, yeah, as the win. Since you're thinking about how we respect different cultures, I'm curious, do you think it's easier to appreciate a culture through the big things like the food and festivals or the smaller, quieter things like the way no pressure at all? I know it's a big question to chew on. Whenever you're ready, I'd love to hear your take.
Okay, so that was a very nice answer. Next, I would like to know that why are different cultures important?
I'm on it. That's the fascinating questions of years, adapt environments. Imagine two groups of people, one living in a freezing mountain range and another on a tropical island. Their daily survival needs would be completely different, which naturally shapes their clothing, their food, and how they build their homes. But it goes beyond just survival. It's about the stories they tell. Right. It's wild how much the land we live on actually shapes who we are. Beyond the geography, it's also about the unique experiences each group has. Over centuries, these groups develop their own internal logic, their own set of rules for what is beautiful, what is honorable, and how to handle conflict. Those experiences get woven into their traditions and passed down. So by the time they reach us, they're these rich, complex identities. It's basically humanity's way of solving the same problems, like how to be happy or how to live together in a million different creative ways. Does that make sense, or does it feel a bit too much like a history lesson? Got it. No history lessons then. Let's keep moving. Since we've talked about where cultures come from, maybe we should look at how they actually clash or blend when they meet. I've got some thoughts on how that creates entirely new ways of living. Want to dive into that? When two cultures meet, it's kind of like mixing two different colors of paint. You rarely get one or the other. Usually, you get something entirely new. There's this concept called cultural synthesis, where people take the best bits of both worlds and blend them. You see it everywhere, from the food we eat to the music we listen to, but it's not always a smooth process. Sometimes it starts with a lot of friction because people are protective of their invisible software, as we called it earlier. It takes a lot of curiosity and a genuine desire to understand the other person to move from that clash to a place of blending. I've always found it interesting how the things that initially feel the most foreign to us often become the things we end up loving the most once we actually get to know them. And I love that we're on the same page with this. It's that aha moment where something that felt strange suddenly feels familiar or even special. I wonder if you've ever had a moment like that where you tried something from a different culture, maybe a my bad, I hear you. I'm listening. What's the question you want me to answer? Wait, I think we're both I'm honestly a bit lost. I think I missed the specific question you're referring to. Let's reset for a second. That's a great place. There are so many ways to dive in, and some are way more exciting than just reading a textbook. most direct way is usually through people. If you can find someone from a different background, just asking them about their childhood or what it
Guys, so today actually my interest is kind of bad. I'm trying my best to stay valid, but it really doesn't. So now let's connect with Maya again. Hello, Maya.
Hey there.
Okay,
What's up?
so yeah, answer my question. I was asking about the cultures. I want you to answer them.
Right. We're diving into culture. Since we already touched on the basics, I think it's cool to look at how culture isn't just the big things like language or food, but also the unspoken rules like how people perceive time or the way they handle conflict. It's those little invisible threads that really shape how we see the world. Do you think some of those unspoken rules are more important than the visible ones?
I don't know. What do you think, Maya?
I think the unspoken rules are actually the heavy lifters. The visible stuff, like the food or the clothes, is what introduces us to a culture, but the invisible stuff is what makes us feel like we actually belong. If you know the language, but you don't understand the social cues or the way people value silence, you can still feel like a total stranger. It's like the difference between knowing the lyrics to a song and actually feeling the beat.
Okay, continue.
To take it a step further, think about how these rules change based on where you are. In some cultures, being exactly on time is a sign of respect, while in others, arriving a bit late is actually the polite thing to do so you don't rush the host. It's wild how full depending on the invisible map people are following. Um, I wonder if you've ever noticed a time where your own unspoken rules clashed with someone else's.
I seriously don't know about it, Maya. I promise. So that's why today I am asking these kind of silly questions. So yeah. Hello. Hello, Maya. I want you to continue.
What's up?
Maya, as you know that I was asking you the question, so yeah, I want you to continue answering.
I'm on it. It's true where being direct is seen as honest and efficient. Talking to someone from the first person might think the second is being evasive or unclear, while the second person thinks the first is being aggressive or even rude. Neither one is wrong. They're just reading from different invisible maps. Usually take friction isn't about the person, but about the rules they grew up with.
Okay, anything else? Maybe.
Definitely. One of the most interesting things to look at is how different cultures handle the idea of saving face. In some places, calling someone out on a mistake in front of others is considered helpful and honest, but in other cultures, that's the ultimate social sin because it embarrasses the person and disrupts the harmony of the group. In those cases, you'd handle the correction privately or even use a third party to deliver the message gently. It's a huge part of how people maintain relationships and respect without ever having to say it out loud. Does that make sense, or do you want another example?
Continue, Maya.
Another one that really trips people up is the concept of personal space. In some cultures, standing close to someone while talking is a sign of warmth and trust. But in others, that same distance feels like an invasion of privacy, and they'll instinctively step back to create a bubble around themselves. It can lead to this funny dance where one person keeps stepping forward and the other keeps stepping back, and both of them leave the conversation feeling slightly uncomfortable without even knowing why. It's all just different interpretations of what comfortable feels like.
Oh, yeah, exactly, Maya. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's wild how something as simple as where you stand can change the whole energy of a conversation. I think that's why learning about these things is so helpful. It turns a weird moment into a, oh, that's an interesting moment.
Okay, you continue. Anything else?
Oh, for sure. Let's talk about how different cultures view the concept of duty versus individualism. In some cultures, the focus is heavily on the collective, family, community, or the company, and making decisions that benefit the group is the priority. But in other places, the whole goal is to find your own path and prioritize your personal happiness and goals. It can create a real tug of war when people from those two worlds try to plan a life or a career together. Because what one person sees as loyalty, the other might see as suffocation. It really changes how you define success, don't you think?
I guess, yeah, it's actually kind of true, Maya. Okay, continue.
It really is. Okay, since we're on a roll, let's dive into how different cultures handle authority. In some places, it's totally expected that you'd question a boss or a teacher if you have a better idea. It's seen as being proactive and engaged. But in other cultures, that's a huge no no. Challenging someone in a position of power can be seen as a lack of respect or even an insult. In those environments, you likely agree in the meeting and then maybe bring up your concerns privately later. It's a completely different way of navigating power dynamics. Do you think that kind of structure makes things easier or harder in a
I
workplace?
guess, yeah, Maya.
It can be a bit of a double edged sword. On one hand, it creates a really clear sense of order and respect, which can make things run smoothly. But on the other, if nobody feels comfortable speaking up, a great idea might never get heard just because it didn't come from the person at the top. It's a trade off between efficiency and innovation. I've got a few more thoughts on how these cultural patterns play out in everyday life. Want to hear them?
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about how different cultures approach the idea of failure. And in some places, failure is seen as a huge stigma, something to be avoided or hidden at all costs because it feels like a reflection of your worth. But in other cultures, it's viewed more like a rite of passage. There's this idea that you have to fail a few times to actually master something. So the focus is more on the bounce back than the mistake itself.
Okay, continue. Hello, Maya. Maya just got disconnected. Let's talk with her again. Where what we were talking about. So yeah, I want you to continue. Hello.
Hi, what's up?
Hello, Maya. Okay, so as you may remember what we were talking about. So yeah, continue. We were talking about the cultures. If you don't remember. So yeah, I'm actually really curious to know more about the cultures. So continue, Maya.
I definitely remember. We were just diving into those tricky cross cultural moments. Since you're curious to go deeper, we could look at how different cultures view time, like the difference between places where being on time means exactly 9 o'clock and places where it means sometime before 10 o'clock. Does that sound like a good
Yeah,
place to start?
exactly.
It's actually wild how much the clock varies by region. In some cultures, time is linear, like a conveyor belt. If you're 5 minutes late, you've missed the start, and it's seen as a lack of respect. But in others, time is more fluid. It's more about the event starting when everyone who needs to be there has arrived, regardless of what the watch says. I've heard that in some Latin American or Mediterranean cultures, the relationship and the conversation in the moment matter way more than a strict schedule. It's less about the deadline and more about the human connection. I wonder if you've ever felt that tension yourself, maybe with a
No, not
friend or
really. Not really. I don't think so.
fair enough. Totally makes sense. Since that's not something you've run into, we could pivot to something else that's pretty fascinating, like how different cultures handle silence during a conversation. In some places, silence is awkward and needs to be filled, but in others, it's actually a sign of deep respect
Yeah,
and
sure.
thinking. Dive into that? It's such a weird contrast. In places like the US or Italy, silence in a conversation can feel like a gap that needs to be filled immediately, almost like the conversation is breaking. But in countries like Japan or Finland, silence is often used to show that you're actually processing what the other person said. It's a way of giving the words space to breathe. If you jump in too quickly, it can actually seem like you're not listening. It makes you realize how much we communicate without even saying a word.
Okay, continue, Maya.
It really makes you rethink what listening actually looks like. Another one that's usually a total trip is how different cultures handle disagreement. In some places, being direct and saying I disagree is seen as honest and efficient, but in others, that's way too harsh. They'll use a softer approach, maybe saying that's an interesting perspective, even if they completely disagree, just to keep the harmony in the room. It's almost like a social dance where you have to read between the lines to know what's actually happening. Does the idea of reading between the lines make sense to you?
Yeah, Maya, you know what? It actually makes really much sense. Okay, so as our time is ending, I want you to give like the final message. So, what would it be?
It's been such a great session exploring all this with you. If I had to leave you with one thought, it's that the world is basically one giant, messy, beautiful puzzle. Every culture we talked about, whether it's How they view time, silence, or disagreement is just a different way of trying to connect with other people. Staying curious about those differences doesn't just make you a more open minded person. It's like having a key that unlocks 1,000 different ways to see the world. Keep asking those big questions and staying curious. It's your superpower. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, so
You're so welcome.
thanks, Maya. Okay, so everyone, this was my 56th AI session with Maya System AI. I hope you like it. Until then, take care of yourself. And still then, Allah Hafiz, everyone. Bye bye.